What is up, everybody? Got Dana, the alien, with us today, and we're going to talk about some plasma. Dana has been on my For You page for the past couple months, and that comment, the last video I had, she left a comment, and I was like, that was all we need. So here she is.
And you better follow me back.
Dude, I saw that today, actually. I'm doing it right now. I was like, shit.
I was trying to be cool about it. I was like, you know what? Boundaries. Let him have space. He'll follow me eventually.
All right, you got it. I got you right now. So we were talking a little bit before about how you started and everything, and I didn't know that your page grew so fast. And I kind of want to give everybody a little bit of a background, especially in the community here. For people that don't know you, give us a little background on how you started and what you're doing and all that.
On Instagram, how I started, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I had been posting just like normal posts for like the last 3 years, just like no reels, just photos, and just being normal Dana. I was a filmmaker and actress and screenwriter, and I've always loved metaphysics and plasma, but I was scared to post videos, and something horrible happened in my family that made me be like I need to live life and just not give in. Can I curse or no?
Yeah, no one cares.
Oh, I was like, I just
my stuff is fully rated R, so
okay. I was like, I just need to not give a fuck like what anyone thinks, or just like who thinks I'm a loser or a weirdo or a freak. And I was like, I'm just gonna post what I love about. So I started making reels first a year ago on TikTok. Actually, a year and a half ago now. They were super cringy. I did it for 4 months, 3 times a day, every day. They got about 2 likes, 200 views. Then I did one on mirror gazing. And that one got like 3 million views and set me off. And then it was just like off to the races. And then I just kept getting better and letting myself be cringy and like being okay with rejection and like what anyone said about me and just like knowing that it was a reflection of them, not me. And then I was like, hey, maybe this will work on Instagram. But I was scared to like show my true self on there because, I was scared Hollywood would hate me. So then, I put my stuff on Instagram starting in January. And I went from like 7,000 followers to 140,000, and I almost shit my pants.
Love that. Love that. So it was when you started going down the plasma route, though, that people started to kind of latch onto that.
Yeah, which is literally like my love. And I've been studying plasma for 4 years, ever since I like meditated and started getting ideas about it. I've kept it all to myself. And then I was like, you know what? I'm really just going to share what makes me curious, what I love. And my angle's like plasma, mythology, and psychology. Because like mental health is very important to me. And then, I just started sharing like basically just myself, my brain. And that's what got me my following, which I never would have thought. But of course, that's how it works.
That is it's never how you expect, is it? Like I think the one that I was making videos about music before I started, and I explained a video about how speakers work and how you could reverse a speaker and make electrical current light up like LED. And that one got like 300,000 views. And I was like, dude, all my music stuff is way better than this. Why do you guys like this?
I know.
And then you start to realize that, okay, maybe you got to like simplify things down a little bit and like make it more entertaining to people. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes, I spent $100,000 making a movie that's out. It's called Reflect. No one saw it. No one cared. It was a total failure.
Wait, what was this movie about?
It was about 5 women that go to Sedona and do shadow work, and it was metaphysical, and it was like my first time putting myself out there, but I didn't talk about plasma. And I never made a big film before, and I made it and put it, we sold it, we got it out there, and it was a total failure.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
I've had quite a few of those, actually.
Yeah, but don't we all?
I mean, that's kind of the point of things, though, because like you learn a lot in those failures, and you're like, I'm not doing that again. I'm going to do it this way. Blah, blah, blah. Like you have to have that. You have to take that first shot before you can even get any sort of lessons. So I wouldn't even write that off as a failure. I think you invested $100K into what you're doing now.
I failed forward.
So I know you're writing this book. You were just explaining to me how big and beautiful this thing is going to be. So give
Mhm.
us a little background on like what you put in here, what it's about, like what you expand upon there.
Sure. Okay, so it's called A New Force, Plasma, Consciousness, and the New Human Potential. It is self-explanatory. It is about those three things. And there is a special chapter that's like 200 pages on mythology and plasma. So basically, the book is about how plasma, most people know as the fourth state of matter in science, as an ionized gas. And I come up here and say, hey, plasma is a living ether. It's what makes up the fabric of reality. There's a finer plasma that, yeah, we can't prove in science yet, but I just know it's there and it makes up everything. It's like the pixels on your computer are made of this plasma, put it that way. Like we're in a painting made of plasma, and we can harness it or harmonize with it with our consciousness. It explains telepathy. It explains astral projection. We can, do human magic with it. And I think it's going to change the healthcare industry, the technology industry. So anyway, I just basically, to break down the book, I go through what is this plasma I'm speaking of, what is plasma in science, and bridging the gap. And then I bring people into the mythology of plasma, literally since dream time and everyone like 50,000 years ago, that was plasma. So I go through every mythology and connect it to plasma, which you'll love, and it'll probably give you so much content. And then I go into then my next chapter is plasma intelligence. And that'll be fun because it's basically how we can harmonize with plasma using our emotions, and our mind, and do like really cool fucking magic. And then the last chapter is, I think it's about like how, like about kind of like the divine child and how we need to go back to play and just like enjoying life and how that relates to plasma and just like chilling. Yeah.
I I'm obviously most interested in the mythology, but also too like I'm got really science focused on this when I was researching it for the mythology aspect.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
And then
It
you
all.
come across things of, like ball lightning and what they encountered in that mission in space when they tried to like drag the thing and all these plasma entities were going around it. And
Yeah.
so after I looked at that footage and I saw how they were moving, I was like, there's no way that these things are not in some way, shape, or form
Intelligent.
conscious. They have to have some sort of like
Yeah.
and like some sort of perception behind them to be able to do, because when you look at like magnetic confinement of plasma, it follows like a nice flow and a nice pattern, but those things were going like up and they'd be like, I'm going back here.
So
There's no.
yeah, it goes
What are your
beyond
thoughts?
reactive movement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because yes, plasma is affected by electromagnetism and it seems like it's purposeful, but yes, these entities, these plasmas seem to go beyond that. I believe that plasma is sentient, not conscious, and I believe that if there is this conscious plasma, it's almost like, so I think that we're at the very forefront of using plasma and, harnessing it with our minds, right? So
Mhm.
picture evolved entities using plasma or like Merkabahs, whatever you want to call them. They know how to use plasma, these higher consciousnesses. So they're almost like using it as ships, like the chariot of the gods. It's consciousness riding the horses. The horse is sentient plasma, and the consciousness is those gods. So I think it's just the ships these beings are in, and some of them may be remote viewing us and using these plasmas as like a looking glass because like a wormhole, whatever. Or they might be like actually in these plasmas. I don't know, but I theorize those things. Yeah.
I'm more on the boat of them being the vehicles,
Yeah.
just
Me too.
because there was in the early like late 1800s, early 1900s, there was a lot of these weird mysterious plasma devices that were coming out that you could like
Mm-hmm.
one that could make pictures and holograms and stuff, and like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how, I couldn't really find a lot of valid things about it, but also you can't really find a lot of
Mm-hmm.
hard concrete evidence for a lot of what Tesla was working on. Like there's not a
Yeah.
lot of his inventions that people actually saw and
Yeah.
they reported on, but we don't have any of those. So I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on that? And do you think they were actually using that when, he
Yeah.
was kind of onto into the emerging plasma breakthrough there?
So yeah, so my second chapter is actually on the luminiferous ether and radiant matter, which is what plasma was. So basically, plasma started as radiant matter with Sir William Crookes, and then yeah, Sir William Crookes, and I have this in my book. I'll just share it now. but there was a huge address to like the British Royal Society about how plasma had paranormal properties and how science were ignoring the fact that there was something going on with this. And then this guy, Frank Very Washington, also spoke about it in a very beautiful cosmic paranormal way. And then all of a sudden, radiant matter kind of fizzled, and then they brought up luminiferous ether. But then, and this is a little bit of a conspiracy, but around the same time the FBI was created in 1908, around these times, I'll just say this for people who love the conspiracies, luminiferous ether was disproved by a faulty test called the Michelson-Morley test, which they didn't do right because they were testing a stationary ether, not a living ether, or I think it's called like, I don't know the word, whatever. And then all of a sudden in 1920 something, they discover plasma. Irving Langmuir names it plasma. And it's like, yeah, but that was literally radiant matter. And Tesla worked with it, but he never called it plasma. So like, and then Einstein went disproved ether and then said before he died that there must be an ether, but then no one did anything about it. So it's like, there's a huge, and I go through this in my book. I found all these little secret documents, and I go through the whole thing from radiant matter to ether to plasma and like why it's all the same. And ask the question again, because I may have went on a tangent, or did I answer it?
I think there's a better one now, because I talk about this a lot, that quantum science is just rebranding all of that. And now it's just the quantum vacuum, which is the same thing that they were all talking about. Maybe it's a little bit more precise language, but we're still talking about the same thing. For thousands of years, they've been saying that is, there's the fifth element or the quintessence, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, quintessence, same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, so right now I think we're going through a phase where the esoteric stuff is being brought back in with science, and not that they're doing it in like some conspiracy way. I think that they're actually doing it without knowing the deep esoteric stuff that has been taught for a long time. These scientists are probably like hyper focused on like, making these discoveries and stuff.
Yeah.
But it takes people like you or me or someone to like make a video, and one of those guys maybe can see it. Yeah. Connect the dots.
Yeah.
So is there anything you've come across that you think is one of those epiphanies, like a huge dot connect for you that kind of like made everything shift?
So many, but I'm trying to think of one. There's so many. That's such a hard question. I'm just waiting to see what comes into my mind first, because sometimes. Go ahead.
We were talking earlier, like the thing that clicked for me was when I saw Malcolm Bindle's footage of the thunderstorm generator, and when he had a close up on the sphere, there was little like almost ball lightning sparks. They weren't sparks in the sense that they just flashed and then went away. They sparked and they stayed there, and then they went into the sphere almost. It looked like they went out and then in.
Yes. Okay, let me tell you that clicked. Sorry, you made me think of something.
No,
okay. This will all connect. So there was a paper that came out last year about plasma and pre-life, and how life might have started out as plasma before like being us, kind of. I mean, that's not exactly what the paper was about, but it was saying that plasma might have been some type of pre-life and how Earth like started life. So I think that plasmoids that are not like, let's say consciousness is not in them, like ball lightning. Yeah. I think that those are our ancestors, and they are sentient. And I think that after that came us, and then there's these more evolved consciousnesses that use plasma to kind of like ride around. So it all kind of comes together. So for some reason, like those dots connected. And then when I was at the Monroe Institute, I was meditating, not on drugs. My eyes were open, and I saw these plasma beings. Like I saw these like holographic mists floating, and they were like animals. They weren't conscious, but they were just things of love. And I know this sounds literally delusional, and I wouldn't believe me either, but they just like were with me in the bed, and I knew they were my family. And for me, for whatever reason, I was like, I'm meant to tell people about this, like about plasma, because you always doubt this stuff. And I think there's a lot of people meant to tell these things, but I just knew that I was meant to connect people back to our cosmic mother. Like I think the Knights Templar and Mary Magdalene, I think all of those things that they were holding on to, the Holy Grail, I think that has to do with plasma. And the craziest thing is plasma is really a mirror to ourselves. Plasma is the cosmic mirror. So everything we say about plasma, about its power, about its love, about its beauty, about its power, it's just mirroring our consciousness. Like we can't have our reality without plasma and consciousness. It's like the male and the female. And consciousness has nothing to experience without the mirror of plasma. So plasma basically feeds back with consciousness and creates these new like emergent realities. And if you're stuck in a trauma loop, you feed back with plasma and you keep doing the same thing over. If you have a new, new awareness comes in, that's when you can create kind of new realities for yourself. So yeah, it's all really cool.
So on the metaphysical side of things too, because my public stuff, I try and go a lot more sciencey to connect like all
Yeah.
these concepts, with real life.
Yeah.
But on the metaphysical side, I get a lot deeper on that in my books. And
Yeah.
so what I say, I kind of go in the same direction as you, where I think that when you're talking about like chakras or having downloads or opening up a channel,
Sure.
I think that's literally a plasma channel. Like you are opening up a gateway to let that in, because if you think about it, all of your muscles run on plasma, your thoughts run on plasma, the
Yeah.
fascia connecting everything to you
Yeah.
is running on plasma.
Yeah.
So the more you can open up here, then you
Yes.
can connect to all the other spiritual stuff. But there's a fundamental force that you're opening up, and that what to me was like when people ask about downloads, I'm
Yeah.
like, you're just opening up the floodgates gates to
Yes.
plasma.
Yes. And that's funny actually, because I actually don't like the word download and I use it
I don't
because
even.
you're right. Like,
I hate
uh-huh.
it. I
Yeah,
hate
yeah. No, I do
it.
too. If I said I'm so embarrassed. But it's real. What it is like when you're in a playful, curious state, and people do this all the time without knowing anything about plasma, you open up your channel. So like if my intention today is to know the truth, I'm whatever will come to me that is that truth, and for whatever reason the day I was meditating and I think I was feeling grief and wanted connection. I was so open that plasma came through to me and those ideas. But yeah, the quickest way to get a download, I think, is just to play and be in an open. It's called negative capability. I think it's an open, receptive state without grasping. Because you probably
Yeah.
know when you grasp, it all starts to decohere, which is
Well,
scientific.
there's like this gateway too. I call it a gateway, but they've proven that like right before you fall asleep, there's a moment
Mm-hmm.
that can last a while where you're very open and receptive, like what you're saying, and you're almost in imagination land, but you're
Yes.
still conscious and you're still
Yes.
directing the way those thoughts are going. And
Yes.
that's where I get like a lot of my best notes come from that.
It
And to
downloads
me,
too.
I can almost visualize it as exactly what we are saying here, as that flow is the channels opening up a little bit
Mhm.
wider, and I'm kind of just like swimming in it a little bit and trying to
Mhm.
find where the flow of the ideas are going to take me. But
Mhm.
that physical experience of that, I think, is the only way that our bodies right now can conceptualize what's going on in a
Mhm.
metaphysical way. It's producing something that is being received, like kind of like the plasma entities or whatever, those little
Yeah.
balls are like the window. We're that same window, and that's how the plasma stream
Mhm.
interacts with this interface and
Yes.
creates the
Yes.
the ideas. And so I'm
Yes.
like,
Those we're interfaces.
yeah. So yeah, I was about to ask you, what do you think about the, because these are two different things. So you have like
Yeah.
the ball lightning concept with maybe being a window or a mirror, like what you're saying, and then you
Mhm.
have physical entities that also
Yeah.
use plasma in a
Right.
form.
Well,
So
yes.
what are you? How do you
Yeah.
differentiate those two?
So, yes, there's so much to differentiate. So, and I go into this in my book a little and I'll try to explain it in a way that doesn't sound all over the place. Sorry, my dog's in the background. So, yes, I call them plasma beings. I think I actually did get that terminology from Robert Temple because I read that in his book, but I don't know if he talks about it in the same way because I don't remember. So, see there's like fourth dimensional plasma beings and fifth dimensional plasma beings. And that's just the way my mind conceptualizes it. I think that everyone has their own relationship with plasma and whatever beings come to them. And I don't want anyone to take my word as like fact. But for me, these fourth dimensional plasma beings are more like having to do with like fear or like any kind of strong emotion that is not like awe, curiosity, like ideas, like anything that is like healing my trauma or like has to do with fear, like they can kind of come through. Sometimes even they might feel heavier. And then fifth dimensional entities are more like, I don't know, my multidimensional self and these like whoever these beings are watching over us, those are real. What I see the fourth dimensional beings are literally just beings, like archetypal beings, to teach me and like help me kind of evolve in this life or experience something. But then all of them, I think, come in this coding of plasma, right? But it's all consciousness. So the fourth dimension, I would call like the collective unconscious. So they're unconscious entities, and that's why they feel so scary, because plasma is reflective. So they're reflecting my trauma or my fear. So I might see a demon or a witch, or if I'm in a good mood, I might see an angel. But either way, they're all for me to learn. And then these fifth dimensional entities, they're conscious. They're not unconscious. They're not information, which helps you grow, which is more fourth dimensional. So these fifth dimensional intelligent entities, they can also come through almost like as overcoats as any archetype, like Inanna, Hermes, whatever archetype they come with what speaks to you. And it's almost like the fourth dimension is like a paintbrush of plasma with like archetypes and colors. So when they show up to you, they could show up as their like, light body selves or these holographic things, or they can show up as a bunch of different archetypes. So like I've been having to feel out like what is that and what is the fourth dimensional thing. And I know now because the fifth dimensional thing just feels clear. It's just like it's clear, it's benevolent. It's there to support me, but it doesn't really have to tell me anything. Yeah, it's so complicated but does that make any sense?
It's well, it's hard to put in words because it's like psychedelics. You can't really explain to somebody that hasn't done it
Yeah.
what that feeling is or like how that experience is, because the only translation that we've all had for that type of thing is like a hallucination, which has a
Yeah.
negative connotation to it, versus
Yeah.
something that's revealing knowledge to you.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about in terms of what you just said and the psychedelic experience. I think they're very linked in that sense,
And I've never
where there's
psychedelics.
no. Oh man, you probably would.
I would
you
pass out. I'd pass away.
you would become plasma. That's what would
I would
happen.
plasmify out. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's some interesting stuff that you said in that last comment, though. The use of fire in like shamanistic cultures and stuff like that,
Mhm.
especially in ancient times, and
Mhm.
people would see visions and fire and stuff. Like
Yeah.
it was a very strong part of a ceremony would
Well,
be to
fire's
look at. And I think that I've always had a hunch that that was a way of opening up a channel to either what you were talking about, the fourth or fifth dimensional
yeah.
contextual beings, and then using that as a way, as an interface between the
Yeah.
physical and the non-physical form, and whether you were enhancing your cognitive abilities with
Yeah.
psychedelics or creating more of a connection, at least with some
Play,
like
whatever.
trance
Yeah.
music. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
I think that was probably incorporated for that exact reason. But I'm
Maybe
curious,
video
like what are your thoughts on the fire mythology and the stuff that you've researched?
Yeah, it's so hard to remember everything I wrote in my book. So I think the shamans, they were called the fire keepers, and plasma is fire, right? So, and the
Yeah.
sun is plasma and it's fire. So I see fire as an amplifier. So, amplifier, that's so funny. So yes, fire, yeah, fire is not conscious, but it amplifies consciousness. So yes, if anything is trying to get through to us, and that's why people light fires and rituals, and that's why people think the sun is conscious. It's not. I don't think it's conscious, and we should define what consciousness is, right? But I think that it's an amplifier as well, and consciousness comes through the sun. Maybe who knows from where the hell or who's sending what messages to us. But yes, I 100% agree that they probably back in the day used those things to connect to spirits. I mean, it's all over, and it is just a plasma thing. It's a plasma portal to connect us more to consciousness. And as far as like what will attract to us again, it's like whatever we're comfortable with in our culture, that's what we'll see. Whatever these beings are, whether it's, unconscious traumas in the collective field or whether it's these higher, like basically I call them our future ancestors. It's supportive, it's all for our growth, and they'll show themselves to any one of us in whatever way comforts us or scares us, depending on what they're trying to do. They're like tricksters, but they're not trying to trick us. It's all for our growth. And the more I'm on a tangent now, but the more we can get used to not being fearful, the more we will feel okay with all of this. Because a lot of people, can kind of crash out from these experiences. And I just want to bring like solace to people that this is all for our growth. And if something's happening, you can really ground yourself and know that this being's coming to you to teach you something. And like, you, if you think you're being like, what's the word? Like demons are coming into you, like you're letting that happen and your mind's creating that. Like you have total control over what enters you energetically.
I totally agree with the messenger aspect of that too, because I've always said that those whatever way they're trying to communicate with you, it starts subtly and maybe it's a nudge here and there, like a synchronicity, and maybe you're not tuned into it, but they will do that for long enough until you don't. If you ignore it too many times, then they throw you something like a
Yes.
little trauma or a trick or something that's not as nice. They always start out nice, but if you ignore it, they're going to stop trying to communicate with you in the nice way. And then
Yeah.
they'll resort to the only thing that kind of smacks you back into reality, which is the,
Yeah.
more traumatic experiences. So
Yes.
I agree with that, but that did go off on a tangent because I wanted to address
Sorry.
the fact
Tired.
that the sun may be conscious. I want to know your thoughts on that.
Yes.
But
So,
define consciousness first, and
okay.
then yeah.
So I think that consciousness is different than awareness. I think that consciousness is like a river that flows through everything. And so plasma is the ocean, right? Or plasma is like whatever. We're all in fucking plasma. Consciousness is like flowing through everything. For whatever reason, me and you, we can host consciousness and it crystallizes in us. Maybe it's our body temperature. Maybe it's like a systems theory thing. It's a bunch of things like consciousness crystallize. When consciousness crystallizes to a certain point, I believe that awareness can come in. And that's where, my multidimensional self is having this one experience. In another timeline, it's having another experience. Those are all awareness from what, God, the mystery, source, whatever you want to call it. I think that consciousness is just that latent river. So, like, for instance, like my dog is not conscious, but I can have a conscious experience with my dog because the river of consciousness is running through her. Consciousness to me is just information. So, when my awareness syncs with consciousness or information, I can have a conscious experience with my dog. And I think it is more of like a spectrum. Like I think consciousness can start to crystallize more and more. That's why like a dolphin might be more conscious than a rat. But as far as like is awareness in it, probably not. So like yeah, I think there's three stages. I think there's sentience, which is what plasma is, like a benevolent sentience, where things either run on survival. Like if they're animals like lions, they're not evil, they're just running on survival. And then consciousness might start, it flows through everything, but it might start to crystallize a little bit more in like a dolphin or in the sun. I don't think it crystallizes in the sun, but and then there's awareness, which is what I think right now we're going from survival consciousness to awareness, and that's why we're on this weird frontier here. I think because we're evolving our consciousness. But yeah, consciousness and awareness are different, if that made sense. And as far as the sun being conscious, I think consciousness as a river is always flowing through the sun. So the sun will amplify it, which is why, there's like sun gods and people praying to the sun. But is the sun aware? No. Is the sun have consciousness flowing through it? Sure. So does everything. It's like animism. But is it crystallized consciousness? No, because it's too hot of a temperature. If it was like me as the sun, then yeah, it's conscious awareness, if that makes any sense.
I agree
Yeah.
with most of that. I
Yeah.
think that the sun is in the river, but I think it's more of like a really big window instead of like
Yeah.
the little plasma ball, like
Sure.
ball lightning could be a localized window like
Yeah.
a security camera is in a
Yeah.
building, right?
Yeah.
You're still observing through the security camera,
Yes.
but some higher entity, like it's as far as stars go,
Mhm.
if we're talking about like a higher consciousness, that there seems to be something there in terms of rooting that in the material world, because we have, you know, the
Sure.
zodiac and the ages and the stuff
Yes,
that
yes.
actually, when you take a step back and you look at, you know, the ideas of each age and what we're
Yeah.
going into and where we've been, they're
Yeah.
very accurate.
Yes.
So that information seems to be coming from somewhere, and
From the
it
stars.
sounds like more of like a round robin type of a thing where these larger entities
Yeah.
view through the, you know, portal of the sun that goes to the
Yeah.
earth, and then we
Yes.
get that gets picked up
Yes.
through, and then we are actually the security cameras here, you know.
Yes.
That's my
Yes.
theory, but what do you think?
No, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. As consciousness is, let's say consciousness is a big fire, right? So like a shaman fire. So it's like it must be like, because I mean, I don't know about you. I look up at the stars, I can connect with like Orion's belt, and I feel a conscious connection with it. But I think
Sure.
it's the beings that are using it to amplify, if that makes any sense. Like, so the sun is just a big conscious amplifier. So, like, maybe different conscious beings or families are coming through the sun. Do I think the sun is actually conscious itself? Like, hello, Dinah. Like, no. But I think you and me are saying the same thing, basically.
Yeah, it's I most people I talk to in this space kind of feel the same way. I don't know if you're do you know who Matthias De Stefano is?
Yes, I've never spoken to him. I've met Robert Edward Grant a few times, so I know they're friends. And Matthias, I think, has a lot of interesting channelings from like past lives.
Yeah, so we went to Egypt together. I had a lot of conversations with
Oh,
him,
cool. Yeah.
and he was the one that kind of like solidified that idea, because what he says is it's really hard to take seriously, because he's like, I remember all my past lives, and you're immediately like,
Mm-hmm.
bullshit, you know. But then he starts talking, and then
Oh,
you're like, how are you? And he just free flows. And so like I still take what he says with a grain of salt, just because like
mhm,
my rational brain still has to connect it to something. But when he was talking about the sun
mhm.
and how he said it before,
Yes.
I had that was what I had thought before, and he said
Mhm.
exactly what we just said here.
Oh, he
And then he
did.
kind of went into like the way that it's organized in the in terms of like dimension, you know. He
Mhm.
just said that those were the biggest windows for everything. It's just there it's like a portal, like when you go down a
That
subway.
makes sense. They're like big fires. Yeah.
Yeah, so like the black holes would be like going into a subway, and then you take a train to somewhere else, and then, you know, when you come out of the subway, it's like blinding up top.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the sun is. So like your consciousness comes out of that and then goes to wherever it needs to go. And this is where we get into temple science. So
Yeah.
in temple science, I like my focus is like channeling the plasma as like a link to the earth. And
Mm-hmm.
that would explain alignment and all that stuff. So essentially the sun is the main window that they're using here, which explains solstice and equinox alignments. And then you have the
Yes.
stars. So whatever stars they're tracking, that is the other window. So you have
Yeah.
it's basically a transit system for
Mhm.
non-physical entities to
Oh, yeah. That's
view
cool.
through life, through experience. And
Yeah.
that's that it's mirror a lot of the Vedic texts say that.
Yeah.
And I don't have a very good Sanskrit knowledge, so I have to like
Oh,
talk to
do
people
I?
about this.
Yeah.
But the more I talk to him about that, I'm realizing that back in the day, they believed the exact same thing. And that's why
Yes.
solar worship was such a big deal.
Yes, there's a lot, and once again, so the sun is plasma, so it's really plasma worship. And yes,
Yeah.
the in Sanskrit, I think I don't remember who said this, but they talk about birds and how, and I did a whole video on how birds are like electrons and it has to do with plasma and they're like messengers. I don't know, it was really interesting. But yes, everything you're saying, I'm vibing with, and I think even though that's not my like. I'm more of like, hey, like, how can we apply plasma to like our lives individually, mental health, and stuff like that? Like, everything you're saying to me is awesome and like makes complete sense. And that's what's so cool about plasma is like everyone has their own like special kind of like specialties with it. Like, you know, the star system thing,
Mm.
I think uh, I think that makes a lot of sense. That sounds
I
very
I I think that the more we're going into the new quantum, you know, world of things, that it's going to be, it's obviously like super important in that, but it's going to get way more detailed at like what you were saying,
yeah.
like a pixel level,
Mhm.
where we're going to get some really really interesting knowledge about how, plasma can kind of dictate what you're seeing on your screen. Like,
Yeah.
this is just all data. I'm seeing you because of data,
Yeah.
that has to be at least somehow how that works as well. And, the
Yeah.
plasma is that, literally the channel to
Yeah.
make those pixels.
So
So
yeah. Yeah.
what do you think that, like in terms, I know you're on like the how you can use this in your
No,
life.
ask
You're
me.
more on that side.
Well, I'm in
What do you think?
tell me, ask me.
What do you think the so I don't want to say manifest. I have a really really hesitant
Just say it
time
anyway.
like going on all of these download manifestation
Yeah.
things.
I
What
write
how do
about
you think?
manifestation is dead. That's what I
Yeah.
say.
how, how do you use that to control your own simulation, I guess, if
Yes.
the quantum stuff is right and it's real
Yeah.
and it is, you can direct it, how
Sure.
do you go about
Okay,
doing
this is
that?
a very loaded question and it is all in my book and I'm going to try to do a good job at this because I get so excited because there's so much to it. So basically there's like outer plasma, inner plasma, and then our conscious interface. So outer plasma is the screen we're experiencing outside ourselves. We're obviously, made of plasma. And then like if we're all with a torus that's surrounding us, picture like the membrane of the torus, our bioplasma. The membrane is like our consciousness feelers, right?
Mhm.
So I'm in a plasma membrane, a bioplasma. It's going to eventually be my Merkaba, and in the future we could travel timelines and use all this stuff with plasma. But right now, in this day and age, it is simply for just experiencing reality. So when I have certain beliefs in my consciousness, I'm going to experience reality with those beliefs. If I want to ever reprogram my plasma bubble, my bioplasma, all I need to do is reprogram my beliefs and I'll experience reality differently. And that can go really far, or that could even just be like talking with you. It's like if I right now if you remind me of a guy who judged me in high school, I'm going to have a different reality experience with you and see you differently than if a guy didn't do that. And that doesn't change you at all. That changes how I see you. So it can be as microcosmic as that or macrocosmic where I believe oh, there's no rules to reality. And, if I want to do this with my life, I'm going to do it and everything will support that. And that kind of will fall into place. But here's the thing. This is why manifestation is so stupid and dead. And I'm sorry, all you manifestation coaches, I love you. And I'm really not trying to be offensive because if someone said plasma was dead, I'd be so mad. Um, but for me, it's not manifestation, it's resonance. And here's the thing whatever I resonate with in my heart, it shouldn't be what I want to manifest. Plasma is all about surrender. Consciousness is control, plasma is surrender. There needs to be a mix. So when I want to, let's say manifest, but let's say I want my book to do well, right? I hope it does well. That's a very genuine thing. Number one, is it aligned with my heart and my soul? Yes, it definitely is. So I can just resonate and hope that and just being present and just doing my book and making sure I'm just being truthful and curious with it. That will resonate everything that's meant to come to me. And I'll put it this way. If I wanted to manifest and if I 5 years ago, I wanted to marry my boyfriend. If I manifested that and had complete control over reality, over plasma, and manifested that, I would have offed myself. And I'm so glad that everything we want doesn't happen because number one, life would be so boring. And that is why plasma is so beautiful because we can control, like, I would say 70% of things if we really use our mind power. And then plasma, as the intelligent, sentient screen of benevolence that wants the best for us, it might say, no, but here, let me give you this and you'll thank me in 5 years. So it kind of explains why sometimes if we're rejected or something doesn't happen, it's not a failure. It's not because we didn't think hard enough or manifest or align. It's the plasma's intelligence and we need to surrender to that. And I think it actually is what makes life really beautiful. And I'm never stressed now because I'm like, I'm just going to do what I love every day. And plasma can meet me there 70-30 and like surprise me. Let's have fun. So yeah.
So there's a delay. I agree with everything that you just said
Oh,
there.
did I break up?
There's a concept that I've been very, very familiar with since I started. Because when I started doing the base forge stuff, I was in a really low place. My business was tanked. I used to do high-rise window cleaning, and COVID hit,
Yeah.
wiped me out. I was broke. I maxed out credit cards and everything, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna start just trying on social media. And
Wow.
then the
Thank God.
moment that I put that intention, and then I just didn't give a fuck about it though. Like I said, I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna work out. I don't care how it works out. It's just gonna work out.
Yeah.
The moment I did that, that's when that video we were talking earlier before we got on here. I posted a video about how speakers worked, and that video was literally a couple days after I was just like, fuck it,
Yeah.
So there's a delay there. What do you
Mhm.
believe that there is, like, because my main problem with
I
the manifestors was, okay, if you want to manifest the parking spot, like, you're not going to do that.
mm,
But if you want to manifest, like what you said, a really good relationship, it may come in a week, it may come in a year, it may come in 5 years, you don't know. But putting that signal out there, there's like a delayed response. And what do you think about the theories about that, and how it's integrated with your kind of biofield theory?
Yeah, I think once again, it's all about like resonance and stuff. So, like, for instance, I would say what the plasma did for you is it made you broke, because if you weren't broke, you never would have started the social media. So, it's like little things like that in our lives we have no control over that seem like punishments. And then, yeah, like with the relationship, it was more like, thank God I didn't manifest that, because I would have been miserable with that guy. So, it's like there's this like divine order to things. I don't know if I'm answering you correctly, but like when you want something, like for instance, I've always wanted to be famous, right? And I have no problem saying that since I was like a kid. I was like, I'm going to be famous. I just know it. Like, and I didn't know how, so I thought it would be an actress, which is probably never going to, that's probably not happening. And because I don't even really, yeah. Anyway, so but I'll tell you right now, because I believed it, if I manifested that, like for speaking about time delays, even like with I'm not famous, but even with my social media doing okay now, if I got that 10 years ago, or let's just say I got it when I was 20, when I really wanted it, like so bad, I would kill for it. I was also like addicted to cocaine and alcohol. I would have died if I got famous
Yeah,
then. Even when
yeah,
I was 30, even 5 years ago, if I got famous then, I wouldn't have learned all the amazing lessons I have learned to be more compassionate, to be more grounded, to be more grateful. And it's like, I so trust in timing. That's why I also don't care about manifestation. Like, yes, I want so bad to have more success or to reach more people, but like, I really trust in this intelligent plasma that it like has my back. And it's like these beings are all working through it and supporting us. And like, yes, we're driving the ship of our own life, but it's like, once again, sometimes you just got to surrender to timing and understand that like this plasma sometimes has a bigger picture, sees the bigger picture. And like, or if like I really wanted to get my movie done with this producer, he turned out to be a terrible person. Like if I was able to control and manifest that, my life would have went a totally horrible different way. So yeah, anyway, it's just about like not holding on to anything tightly and like not worrying when anything happens. It's like for me, as long as I'm resonating in like my authenticity every day and doing what I love, I'm good. And I'm not always in that mindset. Of course, sometimes I get very needy and want stuff, but like it never works when I'm like that. Does that make sense with the time delay?
yeah,
Did I answer the question?
yeah. So that's why I was hoping you would steer it in that direction, because the resonance thing is really the key here. And
Oh
I,
yeah,
I want to
plasma.
bring it a little sciencey, because
Yeah.
there's these things that magnetically confine plasma, and
Yes.
if you control the frequency of those things, you can literally
Yes.
control the shape of the plasma, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's on a scientific material level, right? That frequency will resonate with the plasma and create this shape. It may be a donut, maybe a wave, it may be, whatever it wants to do. But the only reason it's doing that is because there's a consistent signal that's holding that shape, right?
You're in.
So if
Yeah.
you think about, and if you port that out into like into a mindset thing, I can't send out one little blip of an intention. Like maybe I want to have a really good relationship. I can't think about that one time and then be like, well, now I'm just gonna act like I've always acted the entire time, and that's gonna come sooner or later. You have to hold it there. You have to hold the frequency, and that's what we're talking about with resonance here. In terms of the way I look at it,
Yeah.
is the consistent
Right.
thoughts of
Uh-huh.
it are gonna put you in the resonance of that. Is that
Can
is
I
that what you're trying to?
respond to that? Yeah, I wrote it down because I want to interrupt you because I'm the worst with interrupting. So just because in case just to relieve your mind a little, because it is holding the frequency, but for instance, let's say you want to manifest the perfect guy or girl, right? To resonate at that level. And I figured this out very recently. So it's not like I'm an expert. Instead of like holding the thought of what they are, because that can get exhausting sometimes, right? Um, I'm like, how can I be what I want that guy to be? So it's like, how can I keep myself safe? How can I be trustworthy to my word? Like, I need to become what I want. So, and then they'll resonate with me and I'll actually meet a guy in that level. So, like, if I'm meeting guys that are all narcissists, I really need to look at myself and be like, okay, like, how am I feeling? Anyway, my point is, yes, you can hold. I think there's multiple ways to do it. I really think you can hold the thought and manifest things. Like, I really do think that. But for me, a less stressful way is like, be that resonance. Like, even if you want to be successful, it's like, how would you be? Like, would you be stressing, Dana, would you be stressing about that post? Or would you be focusing on your book because you know that'll be okay because you're already successful? You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
You took that exactly where I wanted you to take it. Like
Oh,
the thought is like the gateway.
plasma
That's what I was.
manifest.
So you have your bad relationship, right? And then you're
Yeah.
like, and then a new thought comes in. Hey, I want a good relationship. What would a
Mhm.
good relationship look like?
Mhm.
That image is what you're holding. But
Oh, yeah.
the image has, since you said the mirror thing, the plasma is the mirror. So
Yes.
if you're going to manifest it, we'll still call it that, then
Reality.
that thought, you have to hold it. But I can't look at a mirror and think about smiling and then the mirror is going to smile back at me. I also have to hold the smile so that it does smile back at me, so you
Smart.
have to start with that thought
Action.
there, but that
Thought and
thought
action.
guides you in the right direction. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So
Action.
is that, what else in your opinion is like the most,
I was
I
gonna
would say,
say
like, metaphysically useful thing that you've come across in this research, especially like something that's in your book, like a little secret gem that you can
I
give
know
us. So
shit. I have my book pulled up too, so I could. Oh shit! So much pressure. No, no, no. Hold on. Well, oh, I wanted to say one thing quick in case you haven't came across this, but I'm sure you already have, and then I'll say what you just asked me. With plasma, so it's affected by electromagnetic fields. And obviously, horses are very special and have like 5 times the electromagnetic field in their hearts that we do. But once again, going back to like being heart centered and childlike, when you are coming from your heart, you can literally shape plasma and reality more because it's responding to your electromagnetic field. So, a very important thing just to let everyone know is like when you're coming from ego and not your heart, and you really want something, but it's not from your like soul or heart, like, yes, you might get it quickly, but then you'll lose it quick. It won't ever like hold that. Or it just like won't, it might not happen. So really check yourself. Like if something's not happening for you, are you really in your heart or are you in your ego? So that's like a big thing I've learned that's really put me in check a lot. When I haven't, gotten things. Anyway, so that. And then as far as I'm just looking through my book.
I didn't know the horse fact. That was actually really
Oh,
interesting.
yeah, yeah, because horses are also like telepathic, supposedly. So they're more plugged
Yeah,
into the plasma. I mean, you could go on a whole deep dive about
that's
that.
cool.
I know. I
That's
was
really
going
cool,
to, but it
actually.
was one of those videos where I was like, I got tired halfway through and I was like, I'll be like,
This is a back burner.
yeah. Well, I made like a 1.5 minute video about it, but it was very like, okay, sorry, I'm just looking through my notes. If there, I mean, it's literally the book's 800 pages. There's so much.
Yeah, you're a
I mean, is
psychopath.
there, you know what? How about you apply this to your life? Like, is there an issue you're having or something you want to know where plasma maybe can help you and maybe I can help?
Well, I'm interested in the heart field too, because like again, I was trying to tie things to the science because it really grounds what we're talking about here, and all this esoteric stuff. It can get really out there sometimes, but what
Sure.
you said about the heart being the magnetic field generator, pretty much, and that is the driver of plasma. It's all electromagnetic. If your heart stops, you're dead,
Yeah.
and so like deeper, on a deeper level there, if your heart stops and you're dead, what does that say? Like the heart is the actual anchor of consciousness, and that everything checks out in that sense, because the only thing that the Egyptians would keep when they mummified people is the heart. That's the
Oh,
only
that's
thing.
cool.
They threw the brain out. I mean, they would put him in the canopic
Yeah,
jars and stuff, but
yeah.
they would keep the heart. And then there are reports that
Mhm,
when they looked at the hearts that they kept, and
mhm.
the Tibetan tradition also was
Love
linked
the
on this
Tibet.
one as well. They found
Yeah.
crystals in the heart. Like there was calcified
There's
crystals in the heart. And I'm
there is
curious
I'm
about if you've researched that or what you think about that.
Yes, I don't have enough of my brain to speak on it right now, but there is a huge link with crystals and plasma. That's as much as
Well,
I
let's
could
get
say
into
right
this.
now.
Yeah,
I could
let's
go on
get
like
into
a
this.
20-minute tangent, but if you look up Robert Temple has a book, Oracles of the Dead, that has to do with crystals and voids. That has to do with
Uh-huh.
plasma somehow. Um, but do your own deep dive. And then have you ever seen the video about the heart is a pumping plasma vortex? The
Yes.
heart is a plasma pump. So like,
Yes.
yeah, I feel like there's like this kind of thing or anyway, that's interesting. But wait, what did you ask me? What was I even just saying?
So what are your thoughts, like if that is the anchor, that's
Oh, the heart.
anchoring
Oh,
consciousness?
sure, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So it's really just like it's love because like what is love, right? I mean, we don't that's a word we all made up. And but it's like when you're moving from your heart, it's just like I can't explain it, but when you look in your dog, do you have a dog
Yeah. Golden
or an
retriever.
animal? You look in your when you look in your dog's eyes and you're not saying anything, but you feel pure love for it, like that reminds me of the heart. And even when you're doing your work, it's like I could almost like tear up just thinking about, but like when I'm like little Dana and being so curious, it's like I'm so innocent. So it's like, and we've all been through such hard stuff. So it's so beautiful just like thinking of everyone and their innocence, like doing what makes them curious. And like that mixed with like looking in the dog's eyes and like just that love. It's like, yes, our heart's pumping plasma and it's keeping us alive. And like that's where the love comes from. But when we die and the heart stops, the love is still that like ineffable essence and that it's almost like our Taurus our hearts the center are crystallized our
Mhm.
Taurus if the middle of it's like our heart and that's like pumping our whole electromagnetic field when the heart stops I think we still have that electromagnetic field we're just not in the body so it's like we're floating plasma Tauruses and we're just we're the consciousness is maybe a little less crystallized or I don't know what we go back to I haven't really explored that but like we're just floating plasma Tauruses like I think
Mhm.
there an autobiography of a yogi he kind of talks about like different subtle bodies but I think the Taurus just holds us there so yeah I think when we die we don't die. I think we're still that love. And that's why I think, when people pass away and you feel that wave of love or grief, which is just love, you're just connecting to their consciousness, if that made
Do you think
sense.
that so there is like actual studies, on how far that magnetic field projects out to
Yeah.
other people, and
Hmm.
I want to tie this in, and this will probably
Hmm.
be the last thing that we talk about, but I want to
Sure.
tie this in with like the sun being a window, all the stuff that we were kind of exploring there, and the fact that, like you mentioned, the biofield, it is the mirror, it is the window, it's our personal one. So something I explored in my latest book is like
Hmm.
the the fact that everyone thinks it's maybe their own personal simulation and they can change this stuff, but
Sure.
clearly I'm interacting with you, you're interacting with me, and the
Sure.
people that are around us we're interacting with as well. And
Yeah.
if the sun is this big old conscious window and it's using
Yeah.
all of us to do this, then all of us are essentially we are connected, quite
Yeah.
clearly,
Hmm.
and we're all generating this. If you talk about it as a simulation or dream or illusion, we're all generating it from
Hmm.
enough perspectives at one point saying this is real and this exists. If you and me are looking at
This
a
is our
plant,
shared reality.
we both confirm that that plant exists, right?
Yes.
But, if
Yes.
you're hallucinating on psychedelics,
Hmm.
something may not
Hmm.
exist.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what do you think, in terms of the shared experience and the shared simulation and stuff, like as far as impact goes,
I'm
because a
so
lot of people,
excited.
especially in my school here, are they're trying to figure out how they can help people and what their biggest impact can be. And once you start connecting these things and you realize that there are those integrated connections, you start to, it opens doors for you in terms of, okay, what is possible here. So like the fact that you're bringing attention to this stuff, I'm bringing attention to what I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
that is shifting all the eyeballs,
Public
the
consciousness.
individual eyeballs onto these
Mhm.
appropriate topics and things that are important to you. So what
Yeah.
is your biggest takeaways from one, growing so fast and writing your book and everything? What is your biggest takeaways to do going forward with your mission and like getting more eyeballs on this and
Sure.
like the impact that you could kind of like transmit
Make.
to people?
Yeah, it's funny. Impact's been my word the past few days because it's very important to me. So, speaking on the shared reality, I'm going to try to be as linear as possible right now. If we're all in a shared reality made of plasma, and we all are in these plasma bubbles, and that makes sense that's why you could feel someone staring at you. That's why you could feel someone's energy, even though you're not touching them. Um, we're all sharing this reality, agreed upon reality together. Who agrees on the laws of science and the laws of everything? Like we unconsciously agreed on it. So when I'll get back to myself, but when we all start to become aware of this plasma stuff, of this mythology connections and biology, when that awareness grows, our reality changes because because all of our awareness is shifting. That feeds back with the plasma of the shared reality, and more of this stuff becomes possible. And I know this is a little out there, but if there's a million of us on earth that really believe in you can shift plasma with your heart and maybe have telepathy, that will actually make it happen, because we're switching right now from the collective unconscious to the collective conscious. It's all awakening. And as more of us, I don't like the word awaken, but if more of us become aware that reality is agreed upon, but it can also be changed, which is where all this goes back to what our purpose is. My purpose is just, if I can get enough people to maybe think reality is malleable and to open the idea that like our birthright is human magic. And there's also, to surrender, but we can also have telepathy, and it's like, it is complex, but it's simple and it's fun. And like life can be this beautiful, fun thing. Like I hope to God in our lifetime there isn't as much violence and fear, because I think evil's just fear. I think evil's human created. I don't think there's anything evil that's not human created at any level. And if we can just put ourselves out there and talk about this stuff and not awaken but make people more aware, I think we can be part of shifting reality into a collective conscious, which is really exciting.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
really glad to hear that we share a lot of the same perspectives on pretty much everything we've talked about. I had a hunch, but now like this has been really
I know.
fun.
Were you nervous?
I'm glad to get your yeah. I'm glad to
Were
have
you
got your
like, oh,
insight on this.
plasma? Were
You
you
what?
like a plasma cult leader? She might be a plasma cult leader. Like this chick's might be crazy. Like I hope she's not weird.
Hey, we you do have a cult now, so
No.
so you kind of
So
are.
you know what I was gonna say? Sorry, I'm breaking character right now. What I was gonna say is that, because I want to say this to anyone who doesn't know who I am. My mission, my goal is to use plasma as a mirror to point people back to themselves and believing whatever they want and knowing that they have power inside of them and loving themselves. Whatever you want to believe with plasma and archetypes, or whatever you want to create in your belief system, go for it. I just want to remind people, like, you're not alone. There is something supporting you. You can call it whatever you want, and you don't need to be scared. So that's like very important to me.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I love everything that we've talked about, and I think we're almost up at time. Where can we find more of you? What are you doing? Where do you want to point people? What do you got?
Sure. Okay. My Instagram is dana.thealien. The link in my bio, you could sign up for my book, A New Force, about plasma consciousness and the new human potential, which is basically just how we do magic with plasma and consciousness. And that will be out, I think, on September 9th of this year. And then my website's danakippel.com. And then, yeah, I'm on TikTok, but
I feel the same way. Well,
Mhm.
whenever it comes out, we'll have to have you back on so you can kind of walk us through everything, the final thing, show us all the work you've put in, and I'm sure everybody would love to hear about it. So
Yes, we can
Thank
have
you
a
very much.
mythology special.
I will be reading that first. I don't care what chapter it is. I will be reading that one first.
I could send you an
Well,
early
thank you,
one.
Dana.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you. And we'll definitely be talking very soon.
Yes, thank you.